My goal initially was I wanted to get down to fit into my Shark Tank season 1 outfit, and I failed at those goals for 3 years. When I started changing my goal from getting into that suit to seeing myself alive and healthy and walking my 3 little girls down the aisle, the alcohol was done. I didn't need it. I spent millions more because of that lifestyle, and I could have put that on this lifestyle.
Dude, you flicked that switch, though. I will give it to you. You were all in and all out. Sugars are normalized. You're no longer insulin resistant or pre-diabetic. You're no longer hypertriglyceridemia. Your blood pressure is normalized. The immune system is strengthened. And what we did was...
I got to tell you something, because I'm in so many businesses. You being a successful entrepreneur today does not mean you'll be a successful entrepreneur tomorrow. And you being healthy today does not mean tomorrow.
Talk a little bit about your strategy for managing so many disparate type business.
Time is something you can never get back. The more successful people get, the more no's. The more times they say no. Because you have to...
Hey guys, welcome back to the Ultimate Human Podcast, where we go down the road, everything anti-aging, longevity, biohacking, and everything in between. Today, I have an incredible guest, one that you guys all know and probably love. He's an entrepreneur, he's an author, an investor. He's a well-known TV personality, probably wants to be most well-known for being a father of 3 children. You know him from his iconic brands. He started the brand FUBU in 1992, where most of you guys were still in the womb. He's won numerous awards, including the Brand Week Marketer of the Year, the NAACP Entrepreneurs of the Year Award, which I think he won twice, the Advertising Age Marketing Award, Crane's New Business, 40 Under 40, all of these awards. I just want to give you the proper introduction. It's actually my wife, Sage Workinger.
There we go.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to the podcast, my good friend, Daymond John.
Thank you. Thanks, Sage.
Thank you for coming on.
We've had quite a journey over the last 2 years.
We've had an amazing journey. I've been watching your journey, how the world has discovered you, and then you helped me discover myself. So
yeah, I mean, I want to talk about the health journey. I also want to talk about I actually want to talk about your influence of children and finances as well, because you and I spoke. I mean, I've watched you on Shark Tank for years. I mean, obviously you're brilliant. I think you have an amazing communication style, and you distill, like I do in the human body, complicated information about business down to bite-sized pieces that the audience can engage in and understand. I think it's a very special skill. But something I didn't know about you that I was really struck by a few months ago, we both spoke at Lauren Rettinger's conference. It was Market America, shop.com. And I see a lot of speakers. I listen to a lot of topics. I'm in a lot of events, but I took notes from that talk.
Really? Wow.
And I was super captivated by it. And the story that I would love for you to share is you talked about how you're teaching your daughter, about finances and the bank account and the checking and the things they're not teaching in school.
Yeah.
And so tell me a little bit about that. Like, what are you doing with your kids to create financial literacy?
Well, I teach her the importance of money, but also it's the psychology around money. What are you purchasing and why are you purchasing? But to know how it works as a structure, right? And the best way to say this is that we're not taught about money in school, and actually it's a taboo. And you have this theory that once you get it, you can keep it. Once you get it, it'll solve your problems. And it's very hard to get it. And those who have it are assholes.
That's so true.
I take great offense to that.
Well, a lot of it. But the simplest way to say this is it is a learned behavior. It is something that must start young, right? Because you don't teach a child how to play sports at 19 and put them right on the field, or her, with anybody. You don't teach them how to play an instrument and put them right in an orchestra, at 20, and you teach them at 20.
But that's kind of what life does to them.
Right. And so, if you learn and understand, and the best way to explain how you operate $3, whether $3 comes into the house, 300, 3 billion, right? The first dollar goes for what you have to pay for to live. The second is supposedly an investment, whatever that investment is, right? In your health or in a public market or whatever the case is. And the third is what you would like to have but don't have to have. Right? And if you don't spend all of number 3, it goes into number 2. And what happens is over the years, number 2 compounds and it flows into 1 and 3. But we as hardworking Americans who are marketed by predatory, payday loans / accounts such of that nature, or we watch, and everything is no money down, of course, right? And it's really not no money down, and not knowing that 1 or 2 points it will change your entire life from your mortgage to anything else. Well, what do? We work hard. We usually buy and go and do number 3 first. We never get to number 2, and then we pay 18% or 24% on credit cards for number 1. It corrodes the whole system. Now, if you don't learn financial intelligence in school, the bottom line is today's kid who graduates from college, 50% of them will retire with a job title that doesn't exist today. Right? That's like telling somebody you're going to be a drone operator or a pay-per-click expert 20 years ago. They say, what the fuck is that? Right. So now, no financial intelligence at 16 years old or 17 years old, you will be applying for $700,000 worth of student debt for a career that you're not sure you want to have, that you won't pay off until your 50s. Let's get back to what Gary does, because what happens then is if you don't have money, well, the cheapest things to consume in this country are made out of butter, sugar, and salt.
Amen.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
Well, what happens then? Now you're on this other curve of trying to solve a problem that exists, high blood pressure and various other things like that. Domestic violence rises. Right? Wow. You turn children from, the cribs to corrections instead of cribs to college, because what happens when they don't have an education or they need money? They go and pick up a gun or an instrument, right? Global warming too. If you don't have enough education, the number one way to stop global warming is educate women by the age of 12, 13, 14. If you educate a girl by the age of 12, 13, 14, she starts to think about things that she wants to do for her and her career in life, instead of having 2, 3, 4, 5 children that increases the population. It all comes down to money.
And how old is your daughter now?
I have 3 daughters, 130, 125, and 17.
And the 7-year-old, she's enrolled in this program. Right.
She's enrolled in this program. Okay. She's starting to learn, because what I explained to her was that money is freedom, and that number 3. So we basically break down her money at the end of the year. So what happens is
she gets an allowance or something?
Well, no, after all, what she collects at the end of the year, gifts, whatever, Tooth Fairy. I mean, the Tooth Fairy.
What's the Tooth Fairy paying nowadays, by the way?
The Tooth Fairy.
It's 25 cents when I lost my last tooth. Inflation's got to have that. Bidenomics got to have it.
I got $4 for all my teeth and my tonsils.
Our Tooth Fairy was creative and did $2 bills.
Wow.
Yeah, because those were rare.
Those have actually appreciated.
Well, my daughter had $300 the end of this year.
Okay.
So we said, we broke down $300. Give me $100. That's for your rent, for food. She was like,
what?
In her mind, she's like, who gives a shit, whatever it is. Okay. Number 2 is an investment, right? So at first she went to shell company. This time she bought beads, right? And
I saw your bracelets.
Beads that she makes, right?
Okay.
And then number 3, you can spend that on what? This is freedom. What is freedom, Daddy? You can spend on whatever you want, giving it to people that don't have anything. Freedom could be that you can pay and pay for art materials, or you know what, baby, freedom is you get paid for whatever you would do for free, or whatever you would buy, you can sell. You can spend time home. She says, I want a pet. What do you want? A giraffe. Okay.
A giraffe.
Can't fit it in the house.
I don't think you can get a decent giraffe for $100.
Not really.
Yeah, I don't know what the going rate is.
But we got her down to a beta fish. We went to the store. She picked out a beta fish.
I got her
figured it out. Somehow we knew that was where we were going to go. We got the betta fish home, and she didn't realize. I said, baby, that's freedom. She said, what do you mean? I said, you don't have to wait for your birthday. You don't have to wait for Christmas. You picked the fish. I didn't have to bring it home. It's your fish. And then she realized what happened.
Wow.
And now there's a whole nother new set of responsibilities you can teach her about too.
She has to take care of the fish.
Yes.
But now all of a sudden she started making these because now she wants to,
them.
make money.
I like
I
it.
did this really big thing. I had a lot of great celebrities at it. It's called Black Entrepreneurs Day. Ice-T, Coco, all our friends, right? She's now making these beads. And instead, I said, don't try to sell it to anybody because your daddy's little girl, they'll probably feel pressure. I said, just ask them what they think it's worth. She made these custom beads behind the scenes. She made $400.
No way.
I'm a buyer.
I want one.
I'll take one for Christmas.
Yeah,
I'm
made
a buyer.
$400.
Yes.
And then she said, I want to give one. I have Flavor Flav there. I said, he's a legend. She said, I want to give Flavor Flav, what? She gave it to him.
Did she have a clock bead?
No, but she gave it to him, and then she said to him, $20. I said, you didn't think you were going to give it to him. So
You were like, that's daddy's little girl. That's daddy's little girl.
My first one was Little Daymond Learns to Earn. The next one's going to be Little Minka Needs to Pause. Because she's just getting a little aggressive.
You're
going to
create a little monster there.
I'd rather pull her back a little bit.
Yeah.
No, I love it. Good for her for going out and asking what she wants.
Yes.
She deserves that.
is.
I'm sure
She
you
does.
love
She
that
does.
too.
Yeah.
So, I said I wanted to talk about our health journey, and I hope you're okay with
Of
that. I
course,
brought some
man.
numbers. We could cut it out of the podcast.
No,
if you
hit the
don't
number.
want.
Let's get to the numbers, baby.
Yes,
numbers
we
all
got,
about
we got the
data.
numbers
It's all
right
about
here
data.
because, and the reason why I like to talk about the health journey that we've had with so many of our podcast guests is because I really think by educating the audience and inspiring them to make a change, you can. This is when real transformation happens.
It does.
Just like your financial story with your daughter, it became very real to her. And now the impetus is coming from her, right? I mean, and you just put the guardrails there. Now she's a little entrepreneur. Look out, man. My money's on her. If I could buy her stock now, I could buy the next John at the low. But, I've had so many guests on the podcast, and these are, celebrities, entertainers, wealthy entrepreneurs like yourself. And the message that I really want to convey is, not that it is expensive to make these changes, not that you need all kinds of fancy equipment to make these changes. It's that you have to be inspired to make a transformation in your life, and you need data. And so when we first met, it was a little over 2 years ago, we got some data. And I remember you sat down and you said, I want to lose some weight. I've got a little brain fog. I want to get my blood checked out. And you were not in particularly bad shape. You were not a mess. I mean, you were top of your career. You're still killing it on Shark Tank. You're traveling. You're an entrepreneur. You're speaking. But when we started to take a look in your blood work, you had something called metabolic syndrome. And I talk about this a lot because it is a silent killer that begins now at an earlier and earlier age. And it's a combination of any one of the five or any two of the five of high insulin, hyperinsulinemia, high blood pressure, a little bit of abdominal obesity, high triglycerides, low HDL cholesterol, and high blood sugars. At that time, you had 5 of the 5.
Nice.
Right? Yeah. Well, hey,
If you're going to do wrong right.
Wrong, right?
and
But it's a very common thing. I mean, this is not abnormal anymore, unfortunately. But I think this podcast is very much about bringing awareness to it because not a lot of people realize that that's going on.
And bringing it in a simplistic way where we all just get it.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And then
Amen.
finding those solutions through what we are trying to do is find solutions through very natural means, not expensive. People are going to see you on the podcast and go, oh, well, he's got money. So
Yep, he's got money. He bought the
I can't-
$150,000 light bed. I can't afford that, so I'm not even going to think about
So
it.
I'm not even going to try. But it really was a mindset change.
It is all a mindset.
Dude, you flicked that switch, though. I will give it to you. You were all in and all out. I mean, the lights went on. I mean, I will give it to you.
Want direct access to me so I can personally answer your most pressing health questions? Then I'm excited to offer you free access to my premium membership, the Rule Breckas. As a Rule Brecka, you'll be able to join me for monthly Q&A sessions, VIP access to all the challenges I host, and advanced access to my most exclusive content. To get your free 30-day trial of Rule Breckas, head over to joinrulebreckas.com. That's joinrulebreckas.com right now.
Now let's get back to the Ultimate Human podcast. Talk a little bit about that journey, because then I want to summarize where you are now. For the record, you have none of the 5.
Yay.
Right? Sugars are normalized. Right? In fact, your blood sugar is even a little on the low side. Hemoglobin A1C from 5.9 down to 5.2. Perfect. You're no longer insulin resistant or pre-diabetic. You have normal insulin, normal levels of blood sugar. You're no longer hypertriglyceridemia, meaning you don't have elevated high triglycerides, high amounts of blood fat. Your blood pressure is normalized. Immune system strengthened. Your thyroid is literally perfect. Your thyroid labs look
And
great.
I had cancer. Remember, I had cancer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that.
And what we did was as little intervention as possible, but the majority of it came from diet and lifestyle changes. And I don't want people to think, well, we made them a raw food vegan overnight.
Nope.
No, we cut out the high glycemic sugars and mainly the non-organic whites: white flour, white rice, white bread, white pasta, white potatoes. We got all of that out of the diet, and we were very judicious about carbohydrates. And so tell me a little about how much weight came off. How are you feeling?
Yeah, amazing. I dropped, and I gotta tell you the main thing you said is I dropped alcohol.
Yeah.
I think I dropped 40. I dropped about 45 pounds. I'm down about 30 now. No, about 35. But I made small adjustments, really small. And I think the first thing to tell people is, like you just said, you can't afford a cold plunge tub. You can get these cold plunge things on Amazon for $100. You just put, you can take a cold ass shower.
Or
Right?
a shower.
You'll figure it out, right? You can't get that equipment. I was on the road. What did I start doing? Well, I started feeling lighter, right? I started having more energy, so I started increasing my amount of push-ups, and I just increased my amount of steps, right? But I think it's the same as entrepreneurship, right? You look at building this company, so I can never build this big company. You just got to take one step. And when the one step, you start to see it happening, and I started to not eat late. I just changed my diet.
I remember that.
And instead of the bread, I just didn't do the bread. I stopped yearning for it. Now, is it a fix always? No, I still crave sugar, because when I stopped the alcohol, I crave sugar. I don't know why.
Yeah, we
Because
talked a little bit
alcohol
about
turns
that.
And you started to
into
explain
I mean,
why.
partially because of the dopamine reward, right? I mean, a lot of our sugar receptors are directly related to dopamine rewards in the brain. In fact, if you look at the chemical nature, the chemical composition of a lot of artificial sweeteners, only a very small portion of that sweetener is actually designed to ding the sweet receptor. The majority of it is meant to ding the dopamine response. This is why most people don't like sugar. They are addicted to sugar.
Yeah.
And our brain is nasty, man. What the brain wants, the brain gets. It's like the little Kim Jong-un of dictators. It sits up there. It takes everything for itself, right? I mean, if it wants calcium, it'll leach it from the bones. If it wants amino acids, it'll strip it from lean muscle. And if it wants sugar, it'll activate a special receptor on the back of the tongue. I think it's called the RF1A2 receptor, and boom, give you a dopamine reward.
But you know what happens also? I think that we don't talk about it. The psychology of it, whether it's psychology of money, psychology of relationships, you start having different conversations with different people. You even have different conversations with the same people, but you didn't know they were into that same stuff because they just didn't want to be judgmental. And they start saying, oh, you know what I found out? Oh, you know what I found out? Oh, you know what I found out? And you start finding new ways to find happiness and satisfaction in what you're doing, what's the old saying? Nothing tastes as good as skinny feels.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Dana White said that on a podcast.
Was it Dana? Yeah, Dana White said that too.
And
So
I'm
funny.
telling you, you start feeling lighter. You start feeling better about your relationship. You look better in your clothes. But the goal needs to be very clear. And I'm going to tell you the goal, right? Because my goal initially was I wanted to get down to fit into my Shark Tank season 1 outfit. And I do these goal setting. And I failed at those goals for 3 years. But because I would see myself in that outfit. But naturally what happens? You get into that red dress that you got into in college, or when you met that man of yours, or whoever in your life, and then you know what? You go back to whatever I hit it. When I started changing my goal from getting into that suit to seeing myself alive and healthy and walking my 3 little girls down the aisle, The alcohol was done. I didn't need it. I never touched, because every time I looked at that glass looked like death.
Yeah.
Yes.
And once you quit, it really is amazing how
It's done.
I don't crave it as much anymore. I crave hot tea at night now.
And listen, and other people will say, whatever is your thing is your thing. I tried the every Tuesday, every Monday, one drink this, one drink that. But as entrepreneurs, you know what happens is because we're on the road so much, you don't get a release. And because we're A-type personalities, this is the release. If you can't do push-ups, run, you're in planes, trains, automobile. But when I started to replace that with the thought of feeling healthier, being around, my sex life improved with my wife. You know, there's a lot of good things happening.
That's awesome.
And then
More
I looked
sex
at
life
the
improved.
I looked at the downside of it. Right? What was the downside of it? Well, you can break this down way better than I can.
Yeah.
Every time I drank, my calories would I'm empty calories. My metabolism slowed down. I want something nice and greasy to fill my stomach. I wake up in the morning groggy. I'm not as efficient. Why am I going to go to the gym? Wait a minute. I'm in a hotel. Did a goddamn dog get into the mini bar? Why are they? Why
Where did all that Jack Daniels
why
go?
am I waking up with orange shit on my fingers?
Right.
You know.
Somebody put a Cheeto in my hand when I was
How
asleep.
dare they? And when you do that and you break it down and you look at how much more of your life you regain, you and I were even talking. Now, I happen to. It just doesn't work for me. What is it called? The fasting, all over a
Intermittent
period of
fasting.
time. But I never thought of how much time is taken up of thinking about food.
Yes.
What time I'm going to get there? What are we eating? When are we going to eat?
And so many meetings and events and things always center around food.
And alcohol.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
let's
listen,
meet for a drink.
I'm always
Let's go
going to
for
be
a
the
drink.
follow the money guy. Let me tell you something. I have. It's unfortunate. I have one person in the hospice now. She's in her late 50s, early 60s. She drank herself to death because alcohol is something that is celebrated. I'm going to tell you to follow the money. If alcohol wasn't around, think about how many bars or places to eat or amusement parks or whatever or ball games. Think about how boring that would be. Alcohol's never going away, and it's actually some people go, what's wrong with you?
I know.
Yes, it's crazy.
It is a drug that is pushed, obviously, and there's a lot of money around it. So you shouldn't feel bad for having to tell somebody why you don't want to drink.
Right.
But it's become a thing where if I don't take the offer of a cocktail, people want to know why, and then there's this whole weird awkward thing where now they've already got a cocktail in their hand, and then you're like, well, I just kind of want water, and they're like, water.
Yeah, it's around you all the time. Whether it's
guilty.
on a commercial, whether it's on
It's everywhere.
drink.
Oh, yeah.
What are you going to get for holidays? You're going to get bottles, right?
Yeah.
You're going to see it in the store. And by the way, those ads look pretty sexy.
Yeah. And they look like they're having fun.
I don't see people like this on the ads. Oh my God, get another drink. They're usually the sexiest people in the world.
Yes.
And nobody talks
That's
about
so true.
how your personality can change. Now,
Oh my God.
funny enough, I think I actually do get funnier when I'm having a cocktail. My mother tells me that I'm funnier when I have a cocktail. But some people get angry. Some people get nasty.
Even your funniness is sometimes embarrassing.
Yes.
And you know,
Yeah.
if you're around, how many times it went with the people who have drank? If you think about how many times you wake up and go,
Oh God!
what did I say?
How many
Yeah.
apology letters do I need to be writing out today?
Yeah. And
But-
you know, it's
yeah.
taking about 30,000 people through a 3-day water fast in about a week and a half. And the last time that I did this, I asked them, people after they completed a 3-day water fast, I said, what was the thing that stood out to you the most about the water fast? Just an open-ended question like that. And the majority of people had the same answer. They said, the number of times I thought about food or went to get something to eat when I wasn't hungry.
Yeah.
It's so habitual.
Habitual.
Like I found myself getting up from my office and walking into the kitchen to get something to eat. And because I was on the water fast, I stopped myself, but I realized I wasn't actually hungry.
Yeah.
And had this been any other day, I would have just found some cookies, pastries, pies, brownies, cookies, crackers. I would have taken a little dip of chicken salad on a potato chip and eaten it and gone back to my desk. And I realized that I got up from my desk 4 or 5 or 6 times during the day. And it just dawned on me.
Yeah.
How much of my time was committed to just eating the next bite of food?
And how many times have you said, oh, it's dinner time, we need to eat?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't had dinner. It's 9 o'clock at night.
It's okay to go to bed.
Yeah.
Right?
What, are you going to go to bed with a T-bone steak on you?
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
exactly.
It's so true.
Or being in Miami, the norm is starting dinner at like 10, 11 o'clock at night because you're
Yeah.
going out till 3, 4 in the morning.
It really is
Crazy.
crazy. So it's a lot of times it's psychology. And I think going back to what you're saying, when I was ready to lose the weight, or it was not even lose the weight, I wanted to just be aware of what was going on in my life, and I saw what was of more value. You know, if I'm gonna, how many more, am I ever gonna really taste the ultimate greasy cheeseburger?
Right.
You know, or am I gonna be able to not feel hungover or not feel just sluggish, or be able to pick up my little girl? You know, I'm a 55, and now I'm 55. When I had it, when we had our daughter, I was 47. You know, you gotta have a lot of energy for these little ones, right?
Especially
they're the
this
ones that
little
keep you young.
entrepreneur you created now.
Yeah, but these are the ones that keep you young.
Yes.
Yes.
And don't
So
you
true.
you just feel great. So anyway, bottom line, I took a small steps that, and I got to tell you, I think that the years before that, I've gone through I've had healthier times in my life. I wasn't always this way. Actually, I wanted when I was in my early 20s, trained to be in fitness competitions. Actually, life took over with a lot of great success, right? But it was always the people who were like, oh, we're going to start you off with this. I mean, it was so crazy, the things they would say to me to get me there. It just wasn't relatable.
Right.
And then I would just go blank on them.
I think that is one of people feel intimidated, like they have to. We're going to put them on a program that's unattainable. That
Yeah,
they're going to be starving because we're going to not allow them to eat, or they're going to have to go on some super strict diet, or we're going to make them go to the gym for 3 hours a day. And that's really not what it's about. It is incredible that when you talk to people about their diet, especially, that a lot of times this is just what they've grown up with. It's where did you grow up? If
It's
you grew up
habitual.
in the Midwest, I have a cousin whose wife is a nutritionist, and she's like, I didn't know that people ate broccoli unless it was covered in butter and cheese.
Yeah.
She's like, that's just, broccoli was in a casserole and that was the only way it was served. So if you can change the mindset of people, eat more salads and grilled chicken and watch out for seed oils and don't eat fried food. And they go, oh, don't go to McDonald's or fast food restaurants. And even just those little habits can help them like you said, step by step.
Want to get an extra hour of quality good sleep every single night? Let me tell you how I do it. My wife and I sleep on 8 Sleep's Pod 4 Ultra. This is a technology that fits over your mattress to cool or warm each side of the bed, giving you up to an extra hour more of quality sleep every single night. My wife likes her side of the bed warmer than mine, but I've noticed that I've improved deep sleep at cooler temperatures. It even elevates automatically when it detects snoring to improve airflow. With 99% accurate sleep tracking, you can leave your wearables on the nightstand, and I even had this thing independently EMF tested to make sure that I was not getting any extra EMF at night, which I'm not. Get $350 off the Pod 4 Ultra at 8sleep.com/Gary. That's 8sleep.com/Gary, and use the code Gary, Gary, for your discount. Transform your nights and elevate your sleep. Now let's get back to the Ultimate Human podcast.
We're at the most connected time in history, and I got to tell you, I run a lot of businesses. This is probably the dumbest time in history.
Yeah.
Because people have the information and they hit number one, which is really great because a lot of marketers market number one. The information is right there. Listen, when I was growing up, I didn't know necessarily all the healthy things, but we had a healthier way of living anyway. There was, one Wendy's, I even knew of.
Wow.
I think at that time, there was maybe 200 Wendy's. Now there's,
So
I
your
think,
parents did a lot of cooking at home.
all the time,
Oh,
right?
that's
And we
awesome.
didn't have any money.
Yeah.
They had pizza parties in school once a month, maybe. Kids eat pizza now every day.
All the
Yep.
time.
Right?
It's a
But if
staple.
you do talk to nutritionists, as we know this, nutritionists will say the habits start at home.
Yes.
And they say that if you cook with your children 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, they want to cook with mommy
They
and
love
daddy.
it.
Now you have 3 days of healthy leftovers.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
And
But
I've-
they create it.
Yeah.
I've been homeschooling our daughter, and one of the main things I'm like, oh, we're having cooking class, and that helps us out because we're very busy and we're constantly
She's actually a
working.
great little cook.
She is phenomenal. I am like so
Oh, by
proud
the way,
of
that's
her.
a whole nother story because, the young men and women that I know dating today, they say the women actually don't know how to cook as a whole, and the men don't know how to cook. So both of them looking at each other in the apartment going, well,
well, there's Uber Eats.
that's a whole nother story.
Right to the front door.
And I think a lot of people think that fast food is cheap. It's not cheap anymore.
It's very expensive.
It's actually very expensive. And that's what I've started to learn is that even going, when you think you're getting a healthy meal somewhere that's fast food,
I got to tell you something because I'm in so many businesses. In the vitamin, and you'll know this, in the vitamin supplement, I'm not going to name any name, but in that business, a lot of them are obese.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
In the fast food business, they're super healthy, most of the executives.
Wow.
Interesting.
Why do you think that is?
Because they know better.
Because they know what's in that shit.
I had not taken Alina to McDonald's ever in her entire life. I think because when I was pregnant, I had a craving for a burger. And it made me so violently ill that it just mindset was like, I'm never going again. I took her for her first burger, which I did not tell him because we were all secretive about it. We were on a road trip. There was nothing else in this little town in Missouri. She had a Big Mac and fries, and she was so sick the whole next day. She's like, I will never do it again.
It's like anything else, though. You know, there's people that could smoke a pack of cigarettes. You know, I think if I took a drag off a cigarette, I'd be thrown up in the bushes. Your body gets used to that poison. And one of the things we try to tell people to do is make very small, consistent changes. And what happens is your taste profile changes. Because food today is chemically engineered.
Yes.
I mean, processed food is not engineered for nutrition. It's engineered for taste, to ding the dopamine receptors, to also create cravings, to create sugar crashes, which cause more eating. I mean, it's actually chemically engineered for this. And what happens is people go from a high craving, like a taste profile for processed foods, and they start to eat real foods, grass-fed meats, whole eggs, chicken, avocados.
Yeah, you taste the difference. Yeah.
And you taste the difference, but that food doesn't taste real to them initially. And then as we keep them on that plan for 8 or 10 weeks, they can't go back to processed foods. They take something out of a wrapper and bite into it. You can taste the chemicals.
Yeah.
So now that you've had this resurgence in, health and energy, you're down 35 pounds, where you're down 45, now you're down 35 pounds. What kind of touch points has that changed in your life? And what's kind of inspiring Daymond John right now?
Well, I mean, what touch points has it changed in my life is, well, first of all, also a lot of other things went away. I would get gout once in a while.
I remember that.
Right? I would have certain...
Haven't had it in 2 years.
Yeah, I would have certain aches. I just didn't know where they were coming from, and I have the best doctors in the world. They would try to give me pills. I mean, I'm still trying to get off of the Prevacid. And listen, and I want people to all know that this is whether it is your relationship, whether it is your health, whether it is finance. You never arrive. It is always a new form of learning, and you will not be like, well, I'm here now and I'm good. Right. But what drives me are you asking me from a health perspective?
Yeah. Well, I mean, now that you've had this health, like, what are some of the changes that have occurred in your life because you're so much more conscious about your health?
My relationship with my wife is much, much better. Yeah. Not only because of the lack of drinking, but my wife has always been into fitness, and now we have more commonalities.
Yes. Oh, it's funny, when I first saw when we were looking at your hormone profile, I saw your free testosterone was very low. And I said, when this comes back, Heather's going to need a safe word. She started laughing.
Gary makes that very awkward. She's going to need a safe word because
libido's coming back like a freight train. She's like, hey, can you tone him down a little bit?
No. I'm clearly the guy around the house with the trench coat and lollipop. Around the house, But there's nothing sexier in your life, no matter what goal it is, than setting a goal with your wife or with your husband.
So good,
right? A common goal, and our common goal at the end of the day, you know what it is? To be around as much as we can for our little girl, and to celebrate the moments of life that we can take away.
Yeah.
Also, if you notice, it really started with Cuban, who, by the way, everybody thinks he's quitting the show. He's not quitting the show now. He's leaving the show after 16 seasons. He'll still be on the show for another 2 years. And will probably be a guest shark down the road as well. But he is doing it to pass the torch on to other people, but he's still there 2 years. People think it's right now, right?
Right.
Started with Cuban, and now if you really look, Robert always ran a lot. Kevin is down as well, and dramatically in weight. And my friends are all down. And they're like, man, if you can do it with
We can
your
do it too.
schedule,
Exactly.
we can do it, right?
You know, I want to also to talk about a few specifics, because a lot of times people are like, okay, great, he had all these changes. What did he do? And on your side, you know, so we looked into the blood. First thing that I tell people to do is you got to get data.
Yeah.
Right. It is amazing sometimes when you talk to a really passionate entrepreneur. Sometimes I'll bring them on stage and I'll say, hey, you know, how much money did your company earn last month? $662,440. Wow. Okay. What was your net income? $142,400. Wow. How many employees do you have? 16. What's your revenue per employee? 52,000. What's your hemoglobin A1C? Where's your insulin?
What is
What?
that?
Do you know what your testosterone level is? Blank.
Yeah.
Right? We know more about our businesses and our balance sheet and our income statement, our P&L, than we know about our own bodies. And if people got some data, they could gamify this. So like when we looked at your sugars, you know, glucose is a measure of how much sugar is in your blood. Something called hemoglobin A1C is the 3-month average of your blood sugar. This is how they determine whether or not you're normal blood sugar, pre-diabetic, or potentially even diabetic. So that was in the pre-diabetic range. The insulin was very high. When insulin is high, it makes it very difficult to burn fat. If you can't burn fat, fat builds up in the blood in the form of triglycerides. So we used a root called berberine, very safe root. We added this to your supplement protocol and took it with each meal, and the sugars came down like they've fallen off a cliff. And I've even seen some evidence in the literature that berberine outperformed metformin, which is the major, you know, type 2 diabetes drug, in terms of lowering hemoglobin A1C and insulin. So we made that choice. You started to watch the whites. And then you started doing activity. I remember you would call me and tell me you're doing push-ups and air squats and stuff in your hotel
what was
room.
happening was what I did also is I said, you know, we're out of COVID. Why do I need to do all my things on a Zoom, on a camera? I'm not doing any more Zoom from 9 to 12, and I would walk casually from when I drop off my daughter. I would walk from 9 to 12 on the phone. I would walk 8 miles.
Oh,
There
wow.
you go.
And then all of a sudden, now I've earned my meal.
Nice.
Right? Then I made the meal.
Nice.
All of a sudden, you know, I had my rotator cuffs both were torn over the course of last couple of years, but I have no idea. As the dropping it, I was able to increase the push-ups. Now they're totally fine.
Yep.
I started doing stuff like the EBOO machine to dialysis my blood, having normal
EBOO, by the
blood
way,
work.
is ozone,
Yeah.
10 pass ozone. It's ozone gas. For those of you guys that don't know what EBOO is, it's a phenomenal treatment. It's antiviral. It's free radical. You put ozone gas, O3 gas, into the blood, and that third oxygen molecule is like a missile to free radicals and inflammation. There's lots of clinics around the country that do EBOO and
They're
ozone.
great. I started using them, the oxygen mask, laying on my PEMF,
PMF mat.
PMF mat, my red panels with you. Really small change. While I'm on my red panels,
That's what I mean.
I'm reading
Yeah.
and I'm listening to music. You know,
Right.
when I'm laying on the mat, when I'm on the oxygen, because it may be night or whatever the case is, I'm walking on the treadmill.
Right.
Right. It was very simple adjustments.
Right.
And of course, you know, listen, and I still eat McDonald's once in 3 weeks, maybe. You know, I don't go totally cold turkey.
We call it the 80-20 rule.
But it also, you know, I don't crave as much junk food. The only issue I have somewhat is sugar, and I'm fighting it too. You know.
Yeah, no, it's good to know that you still struggle, but you're still on this journey. Bought a PMF mat. Yes, I mean it's $5,000 for a PMF mat. You want to do it for free? Take your shoes off and contact the surface of the earth. Allow your body to discharge into the earth. Earthing and grounding is very real, and God gives it to us every day. We just don't access it. If you have the money and you want the convenience, we'll spend $5,000 on a PMF mat. It'll help alkalize, you know, the cells in your body. If you don't want to spring $5,000 for a Hypermax oxygen system, you don't need the Hypermax oxygen system. You can learn to do breath work. You can get outside, expose your skin to sunlight, and do a round of breath work. Take your feet, touch
They're
the
great.
surface of the earth.
Free breath
I've been
apps
doing
that are
yoga
awesome.
as well because
Amazing.
you know, stretching and listen again. Yeah, I have the access and the resources, but you know, you don't. What money you need for push-ups and air squats?
Right.
You
And like
need
you said, you
discipline.
had all the access to all these doctors.
And that's the important part. I've had this access not all my life, but a long
Long
time.
time.
I didn't do it
And it wasn't
because, you know, because it just wasn't something I cared about.
But I think we also were able to kind of gamify things. Like when we showed you the labs, I remember you were like, it was like a wake up call. And, you know, like a lot of clients, you know, that we work with, you just flicked that switch, man. He went from, you know, a man unpossessed to a man possessed. He was like, I'm on this journey. I've made this commitment. I'm going to set some absolutes. And I think the reward is what I want people to hear, because there's a lot of people who are where you were, they're there now, and they're going, well, what do I have to do to get out of this and feel the way that he does?
You know, also, I think that, you know, even if somebody had, they were in a different time of their life 10, 20 years ago, and they started down this journey, science has advanced so much in that period of time that when I go to a Prenuvo machine that has, you know, zero radiation, and I saw that I had a good friend of ours had an aneurysm that came up from their leg, as we all know, the past. And I saw that I had a Baker's cyst aneurysm lump right in here, and I was heading to Europe, and I was like, I'm not going to know any hospitals in there, but I was able to go down and have that thing checked and know that it was nothing. The mental peace of mind that I have. And so 20 years ago, when even if I had had some of this information, I may not have felt that I would have had enough surrounding people to talk to. The information is there now.
You can
it's
look
really
it up.
there.
There's so much you can look up for free. You don't have to necessarily go to an expert.
No, you
There's
don't.
So
it's
much
right
out
there.
Yes, you just know how to access it. And also, I like that what you're saying about community, like not just with Heather, but also your friends and the people you work with, and that everybody's on this, you know, this journey.
When we go out to drink, well, I mean, we go out to have dinner, 4 people drinking, 4 people not. Nobody cares, and we're having a great time.
Exactly.
And you're not evil eyeing them, and they're not evil eyeing you. It just is what it is. And that's why I go back to this 80-20 rule. I mean, you don't have to, you know, like sometimes, you know, our niece has a birthday and they pass around a slice of cake. I have a slice of cake. I mean, and they're like, you eat cake?
Oh my God, you eat cake?
And I go, not very often, but I'm not going to be that guy that, you know, if you pass, my 5-year-old niece is having a birthday party, I'm going to have a couple bites of cake.
It is a funny concept that people get nervous around eating or drinking around us now. We're like, please don't. Please, we're
like the stick in the mud, you know?
We're not judging.
And listen, believe it or not, I still go to Golden Corral once in a while. I don't think
I've ever been to a Golden Corral.
I happen to just take the skin. I take the skin off the chicken, and when they're sitting there carving a real turkey, that obviously it may have had some stuff in it from when it was but that's the kind of turkey we get in other places. They're carving a turkey. I'm not eating the fried popcorn and shrimp. Am I grabbing me a nice cupcake when I leave? Yeah. But I'm in a hurry.
Cut that out of the podcast, please. Edit.
But that's what it is. Kevin went from drinking 3 bottles of wine to 1 bottle of wine a night. I didn't know how he was drinking 3 bottles of wine. He dropped 25 pounds.
Wow.
So you do it within your own way, and maybe I'm sure he'll get to no bottle of wine, but that's up to him.
Exactly.
You know, you just do it in your own way. But having the information, I think, is key, because when I saw that information, it was very clear. You have the right to make up your own opinions, but not the right to make up your own facts.
Your blood does not lie.
Dude, and the facts look really good now. Zero metabolic syndrome, blood sugar is normal, blood pressure is normal, your triglycerides, the level of blood fat is in a beautiful range. They're 65 for people that know what triglyceride levels are. They shouldn't be above about 149. They're now half of the range. Immune system is strengthened. I mean, thyroid looks excellent. I mean, and the real story here is everybody sees what's going on the outside, but it's really what's going on the inside that matters. And if you get that data, you can gamify it. You can make a choice, and then it starts to have a touch point in every facet of your life. You know, your relationships, your kids, your career, your
I gotta tell you
else.
also, you know what? Life is much cheaper when you're healthy.
Thank you. There are a lot of people that don't realize
That's a good
Boy,
point.
I like getting clothes off the rack.
Yeah.
Boy, I like. You ever seen a bill when there's no drinks on it?
Yeah, it's.
I know,
it's
right?
crazy.
You know the bill. You're like $900. I'm like, why is this $200? And you know how much longer you stay there when everybody's drinking?
Yeah.
I mean, boy, life. You know when you're not thinking about, oh wait, man, we have to have dinner. You're like, no, let me just eat this really right now, and this is fine. You know, I have a breast of chicken. I love my little panini things. I just put 2 thighs in it, no skin. chips. Eat those up really quick with some onions and just done, and you're gone.
Yes.
Right? And you would have paid. I would have paid $70 for somebody just to do that for me.
And to bring it to you.
It's
$200
life
for
is
a bottle
so
of
much,
wine.
life is so much cheaper, and I have it.
Yeah.
But people don't realize. People, when you have money, you are the cheapest bastard on the planet.
It still bothers you that.
Yeah.
We have a billionaire friend, and took us to dinner at a steak restaurant in Vegas not too many nights ago, and the bill came, and he was taking care of it, and then while the bill was on the table, the waiter got an order for a cup of coffee or an espresso from somebody across the table, and there's like 15 people at this dinner. I'm guessing it probably ran $4,000, $4,500, and he was taking care of the bill. The waiter came back over, picked up the check, took it back, and added the espresso.
No.
He lost his mind. Right?
I would have too.
Lost.
I would have too.
His mind.
That's nickel
Because the
and dime.
He's
principle
like,
on that
I'm
one.
dropping $4,500, and you literally came and took the check and went back and added the $3 espresso.
Yeah.
Guess what had just happened to your tip?
Yeah, exactly.
And by the way, send a manager over here. I was like, whoa. They are. They're conscious.
Very
of those
conscious.
of those kinds of things. Just being nickel and dimed to death.
You know why it is? I think because entrepreneurs, we're problem solvers, and we're trying to see. We just don't. We like to say, wait a minute, how much more? If I just now say, I've wasted, or not wasted, because that's what I enjoyed the time. I spent millions more because of that lifestyle, and I could have put that on this lifestyle.
Right.
Before we tail off on the podcast, we only got a few minutes left. I definitely, I've got the greatest mind in business here. I've got to get back to some business questions. But have you found over the course of your career that as you've accumulated a lot of different businesses in a lot of different industries, are you now looking for synergies between these companies and using that to kind of expound upon them? I mean, talk a little bit about your strategy for managing so many dispart type business, because you've got fashion and entertainment,
Yeah,
and consumables,
that is
and
the
they
main.
seem so unrelated.
Yeah, well, time is something you can never get back, and the more successful people get, the more no's. The more times they say no, because you have to maximize whatever time you have, right? And that's the most critical thing to do. So that's what I do look for. I'll only look for synergies. Or coming to the end of the year, you know what I do? I started doing this about 8 years ago. I look over a list of people I cut out of my life. The reason I do that is because if that person is toxic in my life, or we're not good friends either, I'm not a good friend to them, they're not a good friend to me, but usually they're not a good friend to themselves, and they'll never be a good friend to me. And the time that I'm taking solving their problems or fighting with them or feeling like just like I don't have to go to dinner, I don't have to work with you, I don't have to be your friend, because it's taking time away from me, maybe letting somebody else in my life I love, or spending more time with my faith or my health or my daughter or my wife. So I'm trying to maximize all my aspects of time. Most of the I'm not a billionaire, most of the billionaires I know, they walk around with and I'm sure those old little books that we used to write in school with the black and white, and you color them in, did ink all on the top. And I used to like, what are you writing down? I used to always see them writing down. And I'm talking about 6 separate billionaires. They used to be like, I'm writing down how to save taxes because everything changed. I said, what do you mean? Why are you saving taxes? Well, Daymond, if I'm gonna do $400 million this year, or argument's sake, in a bit, or make $400 million a year, I can either start a new business to try to make $200 million, or I can try to legally save $200 million of what I already have. Why would I do this?
Right.
There's no guarantee that this is even going to work, and it's going to take more time away.
Right.
Maximizing time that they have. Right. It's the same in a business. If I have a business, how am I going to use this same COO, CFO, same warehouse, same advertising, marketing, and I'm going to combine all that.
So you get these economies of scale.
That's it.
Synergies.
Yeah, that's how factories work. They call it, we have a line, we're using 70 or 80% of the line. That's how I even started my business. A company I was working with, they were doing winter coats on their factory. So basically, the factory was dormant 70% of the time.
Wow.
And I said, can I put my genes in there, for that time?
Was this with FUBU?
Yeah. And that $30 million business of coats now became $300 million business of jeans.
Wow.
You maximize the time. Right? It's about everything. Even when I go speak, and I love being a philanthropic person. If I'm speaking for a car company, I'll say, hey, I'll stay an extra hour. Let me meet your best clients. And what I normally will get paid, do me a favor. Give me a credit for that amount of money in used cars, and you donate those to a 501c3 of my choice or your choice. You're going to get the tax write-off. A foundation, maybe a camp, is going to get cars.
Amazing.
I'm going to be there for another hour, and I'll speak to your best client, who you will be able to say, hey, I got Daymond John to speak to your best client. I'll meet a great person. I just maximize an hour.
Wow.
What would I have been doing with that hour anyway?
That's so great. That's so amazing. When we started this podcast, I remember we had a long talk about it, and we decided what's the objective? What do we want to do here? And we went through all kinds of iterations, and we talked about how we could make it more successful and what kind of guests we could get on. And we ended on, we were having this discussion. We ended on, we just want to give without the expectation of receipt.
Yeah.
So the idea is going to be to launch a podcast and just provide value and let that see where it's going to go.
Yep.
And
we thought this was just going to be like a fun thing we'd do on the side.
yeah, and
become another full-time
it's led
job.
to amazing people, but
It's
it's led to
awesome.
amazing, and sometimes, as we've grown in popularity, I'll be at a football game or be in the airport or something, somebody will stop me. That's never paid me a dime, that's never done anything with any of my clinics, that's not on my supplements, that doesn't buy the red light bed or anything else, and say, hey, you know what? I'm watching your podcast and watching your videos. It's made such a material change in my life. I do your breath work, your grounding, your sunlight. And it's amazing because we know now the message is resonating.
The amount of people
getting goosebumps right now.
Yeah, the amount of people that have come to us and said, wow, people are going to hear this podcast and go, oh my God, I got so much value from it, from a business perspective, from a health perspective, knowing that if Daymond John can do it, then I can do it.
Yeah.
Amen.
And that's the biggest thing. Or they take notes on it. Hopefully somebody has taken some notes on the lab values that were pulled, because if it sounds familiar to you, then okay, this is what I should go and have my doctor pull. These are the lab values I should be paying attention to.
Most place you work, and I know there's a big issue in this country, but if you have insurance, you go get your blood done.
Exactly.
Amen.
Just start off
Go
with
get your blood done. Get a
Once a year
hormone
is great.
panel.
Twice a year is better. We have people that do it every single quarter just to really keep on top of what they've got going on. Just make sure they're in the right
to have
spot.
that data though too.
Yeah.
Not just on your business. It's so cool to have that data on your.
You know
on
what I learned a
yourself.
long time ago also, people they have to have familiarity, right? And my wife is somebody who's been talking to me about this stuff for a long period of time. And we were familiar with you because you had lived in a building where I said, okay, no problem. I was at a barbershop the other day, and the guy said, hey, I had somebody come into the barbershop, my wife's friend, and he's a doctor, a surgeon. He wanted to make African Americans aware of colon cancer. So what we did was we had him do a colon cancer conversation here at the barbershop. The barbershop is pretty big. He said, I had 400 men sign up for that.
What?
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
And he said, I didn't realize. He said, politicians and army and everybody and sin companies have been using barbershops forever because they know how tight the community is.
That makes sense.
He
That's
said,
great.
but you know what? I realize if I'm walking down the street and somebody says, you want to hear about colon cancer screening? Get the hell out of my face.
yeah.
But
exactly.
but in the hood or you go, yo, man, why you ain't coming to the colon cancer thing? Look how damn sweaty you look. You look like you sweat going in the elevator. Yo, your man. And if you don't go there, and then for a year after that,
They're
every
gonna
time
get
you're
on
like,
you.
oh, man, I feel, see, because you wasn't at the colon cancer, homeboy. Yeah. So I think another thing we can learn from this is whatever community you have, you can take away what we're talking about here, but there are always going to be experts, and of course, vet them, please, and don't have one answer to them all. involved, right?
Exactly.
Use your community, your small little community, to have these intimate conversations because it's on everybody's mind.
Right.
Sure.
Right? They just don't trust who it's coming from.
Right.
So let this be the lead to say, maybe we should do this in our beauty salon, golf course, da, 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 da. I don't care where it is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
The information is there. It's just how are
It's
you
there.
accessing
So
it?
true. So amazing. Well, we end every podcast by asking each guest the same question. There's no right or wrong answer. I'm interested to hear yours. But what does it mean to you to be an ultimate human?
Well, I want to leave my daughters, a legacy, not inherency. You know, I've been fortunate enough to be a little brown boy that came from nothing. I didn't have any money, no famous last name. I mean, I do have a famous last name, but if I call Elton John...
Well, now you do.
Well, if I call Elton John and tell him I'm his son, he's not going to believe me. For various reasons.
He went back into the Bible now.
Yeah, but the ultimate human is to be somebody that makes the planet a little bit better, changes people's lives in a little bit of a better way, and give them hope. I think that's critical. I think it's being very responsible for your actions, owning up to it, learning and knowing that you're going to make mistakes, and even telling your kids when they're talking to you that, Daddy, at that age, I was still growing and I'm still growing now. I'm human, right? Yeah. I think it's giving to those who are not in a good place, you know?
Yeah.
I think
not
that's
just on the
being
holidays.
but also testing yourself. You know, too many of us have settled. We're all special.
Yeah.
You got to test yourself. Like, what's a life living without testing yourself? It's just, and I think many of us allow society or other people to set goals for us. You set your own goals. Like, how can you live without knowing you didn't try the hard? And it's not easy, and shit will happen.
Yeah.
But to be the ultimate human is to do those things. So I'm always going to test myself. And by the way, you never arrive.
Yeah, I love that. I love. I'm going to steal that from you. By the way, you're going to see it on
never
my
arrive.
podcast now.
I'm going to close it out with very simple. Woman called my house, called my wife and her parents, and she was like, Daymond, how did this woman get our number? Like, Daymond, come on, man. You've been on a major network for 15 years. There's got to be some kind of security, this and that. No, I said, you know what, honey? I'm going to call a couple people. I don't normally name drop, but I call a couple people. Number one, Robert is he's one of the top 10 cybercrime experts in the world.
Wow.
I called Robert. He said, who called? I said, this woman called. He said, amazing. That's normal. Robert's answer to everything. By the way, Daymond, you can't do anything about it. Screw you, Robert. I don't believe you. Yeah. I called Cuban. He said, Daymond, that happens to me too. I called Catherine Zeta-Jones. She said, oh, darling.
Oh, darling.
I called Pitbull. He said, Papo, that lady on the other line right now myself, right? So
same lady's on the other line.
Yeah.
We need to find her and hire her.
Go, hey, now since you're a star, let me tell you what you get. Nobody will ever know your business. Da, 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 da. It doesn't happen.
Right.
The shit that I ate when I was 20, I can't eat when I'm 50. Happily ever after doesn't mean happily ever after unless you make it happily ever after.
Wow.
Right? You being a successful entrepreneur today does not mean you'll be a successful entrepreneur tomorrow. And you being healthy today does not mean tomorrow. I didn't even know what a CAC score was until a guy standing over here, a YouTuber that I happen to know, an excellent dad, told me what a CAC score was. And I think I called you. I called somebody, like, yeah, go down. And the doctor, I doing my stress test, which after you, he said, Daymond, you completed that 12-minute stress test when a lot of people can't complete, athletes can't complete some of these stress tests.
Wow.
I was like, me? He's like, yeah, and he said,
Makes
hey,
me
the
so
CAC
happy.
scores come down to like $200, and people never use them. I mean, that's what is it? A calcium? What's a CAC?
Calcium arterial score. Yeah.
He said people don't even know about this thing.
Yeah.
So again, you have to keep learning. You never arrive.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Well, Daymond John, thank you so much for giving us your time today. You're
Thank you.
inspiring.
Thank you.
You're a good friend. We love you and your
so much.
family.
We
the
love
kids.
you, and I love what you've been doing for the world, man. You deliver it in such a way, just like we do on Shark Tank. It is complicated, but there's a way to accomplish it on your terms if you do it the right way at your pace.
Amen.
I like
if you've got a foundation, how would people find your foundation?
We have the Fubu Foundation, but generally, you can check out my podcast where I love to go into deeper things such as this. Like, we all have these like.
How do we find your
points.
podcast?
My podcast is called That Moment.
That Moment?
Very
Okay.
simple. When Michael Jordan got cut from the team and a little kid, everybody asked him, "Well, I want to know, what did he do that night? What did he eat? What was he thinking? Who did he call?" Right? Very detailed. I want to go into that.
That moment.
Right? And I help other entrepreneurs. I have game changer meetings or my Rise Nation mastermind.
Rise Nation.
And of course, catch me on Shark Tank. And again, like we always say, do what within your means. If you're a startup, you can get a book from me. I have 5 books, but of course, my best one is the one for the kids. Read it with your kids, and don't necessarily get it from me. Maybe Lewis Howell, maybe Tim Ferriss, maybe Think and Grow Rich by
Ours very
Napoleon
soon.
Hill. Get them from anybody. The information is there. It's just access to the information that people don't use.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Daymond. You're a legend. And as always, guys, that's just science.